Savatt, and I'm a genetic counselor at Geisinger Health System in Pennsylvania. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the research that we're doing, specifically about our project called GenomeConnect, and how we're using GenomeConnect to make connections and engage patients in genomic discovery. Before I get into all of that, I want to give you a crash course in genetics. Don't worry, I'm not taking you back to high school biology, we won't be doing Punnett squares, and I'm certainly not going to give you a quiz, but just to make sure that we're speaking the same language and that we're on the same page. Each one of us sitting here today has trillions of cells that make up our body. In each of those cells are our genes, which provide the instructions for how our body grows, develops, and works. Each of us has over 20,000 genes that we inherit from mom and dad, and each gene has a specific job to do. Some give us our eye color, our hair color, some help our heart grow and develop as it should, and some of them are helping you digest that salmon that you just had for lunch. Our genes are made up of the sequence of DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA is just the letters A, T, G, and C, and that number and sequence of those letters makes us who we are. Take Emma here on the slide. She has red hair because of the number and letter of those A's, T's, G's, and C's in her genes that determine hair color. Each of us have the same 20,000 genes, but differences in that sequence of those genes, what we in the genetics business call genetic variants, make us who we are. We all are more alike than we're different. We share 99% of our DNA sequence, but it's that 1% that makes us different from each other. Most of those differences don't cause us health issues. They're just part of what makes us unique, but a small proportion might contribute to genetic diagnoses, rare diseases, or even might contribute to more common health conditions. In recent years, our technology has expanded in such a way that genetic testing is now easier, cheaper, more accessible, and more widely used. Consequently, we can now identify an increasing number of these genetic variants. And although our understanding of genetic variants and the role they play in health and disease has grown exponentially, we still have a lot to learn. We don't fully understand how each variant is affecting our health. More than that, with 20,000 genes, we haven't even figured out what every gene is doing in terms of health. Because many of these genetic variants are rare, many patients and families undergoing genetic testing might be the first person to be identified with that variant. Because it hasn't been seen before, it's difficult to determine, is that the explanation for their symptoms and what's going on with them? Take Emma, our example. She's had vision loss since her early teens, and she undergoes genetic testing for genes that have been tied to early onset vision loss. A change is found in a gene, an A where a G typically is, but we haven't seen that change before. So it's hard for us to know, is that coincidence? Are we just seeing it because it's there, but it's not contributing to her symptoms? Or is it the explanation for her condition? In order to understand the role that genes and genetic variants play in health and disease, genetic testing laboratories, clinicians, and researchers need to be willing to collaborate. The more times we've seen a genetic variant, and the more that we know about that person that that variant was identified in, the more likely we're going to be able to decipher what it means for their health. Many genetic testing laboratories have recognized how valuable crowdsourcing information is, and they've begun to share de-identified genetic and health information with publicly available databases such as NCBI's ClinVar. They remove identifying information, name, birthday, and provide what they know about that genetic variant and any health information they might have about that patient. Unfortunately, genetic testing laboratories often have limited information about that patient. They might know about a few symptoms, but they don't have the whole health picture. That's where patients can come into the equation. Patients are experts about their own health history. They know their symptoms, their diagnoses, and the overall health picture. Until recently, however, there wasn't a structured way for patients to share this information with laboratories, clinicians, and researchers. More than that, patients didn't have a good way to connect with each other or to connect with these other stakeholders to start a conversation. Many patients and families that found that they were the first to be identified with a particular genetic variant were left with little guidance and resources on how to connect and share. That was until recently. I'm happy to say that the number of resources for individuals with rare genetic variants have expanded, and I want to take some time to tell you about just one of those resources. GenomeConnect is a part of the ClinGen resource, which is a research project that's funded by the NIH and aims to expand our understanding of genomics. GenomeConnect is entirely online and aims to provide a mechanism for patients to securely share their genetic and health information so that they can become valuable partners in the advancement of genetic knowledge. GenomeConnect also aims to enable patients to connect with other individuals, healthcare providers, laboratories, and researchers to continue that conversation and to continue growing our understanding. GenomeConnect is open to anyone who's had genetic testing regardless of diagnosis or test results. So we expand a wide number of patients. As part of participation in data sharing efforts, participants enroll on GenomeConnect online, consent to participate, and complete a health survey that collects information about them from head to toe. Additional surveys might be assigned based on their initial responses so that we can collect a little bit finer health information. And we encourage patients to upload or update their survey on an annual basis or as their health changes so that we can really continue to have a complete picture of their health. After giving us their health information, participants then upload a copy of their genetic testing report, and our genetic counseling team, myself and 4 others, curate those reports and collect any information about genetic variants that were found through that testing. At this point, our participants have indicated numerous different diagnoses and health conditions. We have some participants with chromosomal disorders, mitochondrial conditions, single gene disorders with both pediatric and adult onsets. We have some individuals who have yet to have a diagnosis identified. And we even have some healthy individuals who've maybe had testing direct to consumer for carrier screening or predictive testing. So we have a wide variety of different diagnoses. After all of this information is shared with GenomeConnect, the information is de-identified. So we take name, birthday, anything that makes us know that it's that person off, and share it with that same database that researchers, laboratories, clinicians are sharing with. Ultimately, this sharing can help us to better understand what those genetic variants mean, better characterize these conditions, and ultimately down the road, hopefully better have a sense of what treatments to do, what management we can offer, what resources we can give to these people. GenomeConnect was launched almost 2 years ago in October of 2014, and we had a little bit of slow growth at first, but at this point we have over 700 consented participants. 600 or so have completed the consent and health survey, and about a quarter of our participants have gone on and uploaded a copy of their genetic testing report. Although the majority of our participants are within the United States, because we're completely online and Google Translate does a pretty good job, we now span 22 different countries. Within the United States, we represent 48 of the 50 states. The majority of our participants, by a slight majority, are females, which I think many of the research studies have talked about. Females participate more widely than men. And in terms of age, our participants range from someone that was registered prenatally by their parents, all the way to participants that are in their late 80s. So we have really a wide cohort of people that are going online, signing up, and are willing to share their information. In addition to becoming a part of the effort to crowdsource information to better understand what these genetic variants are doing in terms of health and disease, GenomeConnect participants also have the ability to connect with other stakeholders, healthcare providers, other participants, and researchers. GenomeConnect first allows participants to connect with one another through what we call our participant matching feature. Participants can elect whether or not to participate in this. If they do, they can then search for other participants based on gene, diagnosis, or even US state. If a match is found, de-identified information about that person is displayed, their gender, their age, where they're located geographically, and then the participant can send a secure message through our online portal. If both participants agree to continue to connect, they can then do so outside of the system by phone, by email, or even in person. This feature was just launched earlier this year, and we're very proud that this is something that we now can offer to our participants. Whenever we launched the feature, participants needed to sign on and elect whether or not to participate. And overwhelmingly, our participants have said, yes, I want to be a part of this, with 86% saying, let me match with others. In terms of current ability to connect, 5% of our participants can match on Gene, and that number is low, but remember, not all of our participants have uploaded a copy of their report just yet. 26% could match on a specific diagnosis, and 86% could match on geographic location within the US. In addition to connecting with others, GenomeConnect participants also have the opportunity to connect with researchers and healthcare providers. Healthcare providers, researchers, labs that are searching within that database may want more information about people with that variant. Or they might have a specific gene or variant or research question in mind. So they might come to our team and say, can you reach out to these people for me? We can. At that point, we can email our participants, include information in our newsletters to say, this research study is interested in this. If you'd like to participate, here's information on how to connect with that study. And then they can then go do so and continue to be a part of research and genomic discovery. Ultimately, GenomeConnect was created because researchers that have been working to advance our understanding of genetics for years recognized that the paradigm needed to shift. Patients are valuable resources. Patients are experts about their own health, and they can really help us better understand the relationship between genetics and health and disease. In addition to allowing patients the opportunity to share their data and contribute to understanding of genetics, GenomeConnect allows patients to connect with other stakeholders, including other individuals, families, healthcare providers, and researchers to gain support, to obtain information, to exchange resources, and continue those conversations that will ultimately increase our understanding. Today, I've highlighted one resource that empowers patients to participate in genomic discovery, GenomeConnect. Whether it's through GenomeConnect, another resource, another registry, we want to encourage patients to be a part of this process and encourage researchers to bring patients into the conversation, because it's ultimately them who will help us drive this research forward and drive this understanding. GenomeConnect wouldn't be possible without the people listed here. The registry is powered by Patient Crossroads, which is a registry platform. I'm happy to take questions now or via email, and I also need to mention that this research is funded by several NIH grants and contracts. Thank you. Yes?
I apologize if I missed this, but what formats do you take genetic testing in? Like, is it a third-party service that you have to upload? Or
so patients just can take a picture, scan them, they can even email them to our registry website, and then we do all the work. As genetic counselors, we have specialized training on how to interpret genetic testing reports. We do that, and we collect the information in a standardized way by filling in a survey. So we collect the genomic coordinates, the interpretation from that laboratory, the report date, so that's all in a structured way that we can then submit to that database. It's something that we created actually as part of this registry, and it's something that moving forward we hope to share with others, because there are lots of registries out there that are collecting health information. They may or may not be collecting genetic information, and we want to empower them to do the same thing that we're doing, to share that information. So in the future, something that will be available. Yes? So yes, so tricky answer to that question. It depends on when the 23andMe data was collected. So pre-2013, they gave a really great report, which we're able to curate really well. Between 2013 and a couple of months ago, it was in raw data file, which we can't use at this point. But now again, they're starting to issue reports. So it needs to be some sort of testing that a paper report or electronic report was issued that we can easily collect all the information from. Moving forward, we're looking at how to collect raw data files like that generated by 23andMe or even genomic sequencing companies, but that data is really big. So getting a way to collect that, to store it well within the registry is something that we're continuing to talk about.
And just a follow-up question, if you're European, are there any of these services?
So there aren't any European, in terms of testing companies, or not that I'm aware of, that are doing similar things to 23andMe at this point. But there are plenty of clinical laboratories doing testing for people due to health diagnoses, carrier screening, that sort of thing, that would be applicable here. Yes? Wonderful question. We're doing it in a couple of different ways, but certainly our largest sources of referrals come from providers that are talking about GenomeConnect with their patients. So genetic counselors, physicians that are ordering the testing often mention this as a resource. And we're also reaching out to genetic testing laboratories to ask them to put wording about this resource on their lab reports. And I can say that we've had quite a bit of success in getting wording added to reports so that when a patient goes home and has this piece of paper and they're reading through it, they see there's something I can do with this information. I can share this to try and increase what we know about it. And I think I'm out of time, but if there are any further questions, happy to chat by email, my Twitter handle @GenomeConnect, whatever. Thank you.